Great.
It turned out really good. And then I had some other people. I got multiple hosts, so I was able to have some instructors give some corrections, and it turned out okay. A lot of my friends around my area that have martial arts schools, they didn't know what to do. So
That's great. And the response from your students was positive?
Oh, it was really positive. So, I mean, everybody's still, on tiptoes and everything, but, and it was the first day. So in total, we had 50 people, about 50 people participating in either the regular class, because we only had like 3 people or 4 people show up in most of the classes. And then we offered that online, or the Zoom meeting in addition to, so it worked out.
Good, good. And just to catch everybody up, I had spoke with Master Gracer over the weekend. He was talking about utilizing Zoom for some of his classes, and they went ahead and launched it. That's what he was talking about. It went over really positive.
Okay, so
there you are, sir.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. And Bob, can you mute everybody?
I'm on it.
Yeah. Let's get everybody muted here for a minute. And I see we still have quite a few people joining us here. So hopefully we'll have kind of an all hands on deck meeting. And Bob, we're going to need to check in on the Mastery Leadership link as well, and make sure.
Yes, sir. I can pop over there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you might make sure everybody got the message that we're on this link today.
Yeah, I've got Jan texting me now, trying to find out where we're at.
Okay. There you go.
I'll hop over there right now.
She didn't get the message.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, as we're letting everybody get logged in here, let's go through a couple of things, kind of preliminary. What I want to talk about here is just how to make sure that April and May are fabulous months, not that you have any dip in your results. And on that note, congratulations to Amanda Christensen, who did 2 enrollments last night. Congratulations to Olga and Larry Keith. I think they did 2 paid in full enrollments, 1 or 2 renewals, and some other stuff that they posted there. I know Amanda Olson also did at least 1 enrollment last night. So make sure that you don't take your eye off the ball to keep your enrollment momentum going. So let's get started, kind of A to Z here. I hope everybody has a notebook that you can take some notes, and I'm going to have to go get rid of some background noise here. Give me half a second now. It's on my. Okay, experiencing the joys of virtual classroom from Jefferson County Schools today as well. So anyway, so let's walk through a number of things on making sure that we have tremendous results in the next 6 to 8 weeks as this stuff is going on, rather than going south and going sideways on things. Number one, I emailed this out, posted it out, but I would like everyone to sit down, make sure that you have a really, really, really good list of every student they have that's a first-year student. So regardless of what your belt structure is, but if it's they get a white belt, a gold belt, an orange belt, a green belt, and a purple belt, and a blue belt, or whatever it is for the first year, have a really good list of everybody who's a first-year student. And then as a subset of that list, have a really good list of everybody who is on your basic program. In other words, they're enrolled for a year, but they're not yet renewed to black belt and beyond. And then as a separate list, have a really good list of everyone who you have who's on your black belt program or whatever your comparable in the past has been, but aren't yet on your highest level renewal program. So go through first and have a really good list of all of those groups of people. And it certainly can be pull out the ID cards, or it can be go through them item by item, and make sure you have good email addresses, good phone numbers, good mailing addresses, etc. And those are now our number 1, number 2, and number 3 highest priority list to make sure we keep good contact with. That, you know, and we're going to keep excellent contact with every student. I don't care whether there's 6th degree black belt and they've been with you for 42 years. But I really want to start with those who are at most risk of freaking out, getting sideways, whatever word and term you want to use for it, but those who are most at risk of kind of falling by the wayside. And start with really putting special attention into the everybody who's been with you for a year or less, and as a subset of that, everyone who is with you for a year or less who is not yet renewed to black belt and beyond. And then as an additional list, there may be some overlap, of course, but everybody who is enrolled on your renewal program, but not on your highest level renewal program. And what we want to do is start with really putting 10 times our normal effort, if not 20 times our normal effort, into that group, right? So let's start with, that's our first priority, bar none, is really make sure we have a good list on that. Now, stepping back, and now that we have most everybody on the line, I see we have Don Southerton, who I asked to join us. We have Jeff Smith, who I asked to join us. Well, he usually joins us. You guys can unmute. I don't know if Master Moody has made it back in the country yet or not. He was transiting from Venezuela to somewhere else in between, to Canada to the U.S. Yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see whether he made it on that flight. But now let's step back for a second and let's talk about situations like this. Okay. What we're going to do, by the way, is tomorrow we're going to have another special meeting about the coronavirus, and it's going to be more focused on what are the financial opportunities in the market right now. If you have retirement funds, investment funds, et cetera, how to think about that right now in the market, how to utilize the opportunities that just have presented itself to build your wealth, et cetera. So we're going to do that tomorrow at same time, same link. And frankly, every week, twice or perhaps even 3 times a week, we're going to be doing some special meetings for all hands to make sure that we're in really good shape. But I want to step back and let's assess where we're at right now. Number one, the reason you guys all pay us isn't so that you can do your best marketing job in the best economy in the history of the United States, or at least the best economy in 50 years, and thrive under best of circumstances. The reason really is that there's always going to be bumps, dips, glitches in the market. There's always going to be stuff, whether it's the financial crisis in the 80s, the Neil Bush and SNL-led real estate crisis, or whether it's 9/11 or something as a complete black swan like the Columbine shootings and so forth, or if it's the recession of 87-ish. You can go through the 50 plus years that Master Smith has been running schools, 40 plus years that Don Southerton here has been in the industry, 40 plus years that I've been in the industry. And there's been a lot of occasions when there were big disruptions, situations similar to, if not identical to this. And the first thing you have to do is learn how to, and nowadays it's exacerbated by social media, by the fact that everybody in your neighborhood, you're in the neighborhood, app, or on Facebook or on Twitter or whatever. There's just so much misinformation, so much histrionics, and so much catastrophizing. You've really got to discipline yourself to put your hands over your ears and ignore all of the idiots out there who are chicken little and the sky is falling. Okay. So, but really the reason that we're most valuable is when there are areas that may drive other people out of business, is we'll be in a position to thrive not only survive but thrive. Don, you want to talk about that for a second?
Well, I was going to say, I have a number of notes today that I went over, and the second note was that you can't find any better mentors other than Master Smith and Grandmaster Smith and Master Oliver, because they have weathered the storm over and over and over, and at very high levels that. But Grandmaster Smith, you remember the Junri fiasco with the government there. I mean, some of this was major international news that they were in the hub of, and they've gone through. So again, I've always said that, and I pop in and out of these meetings occasionally over the year with my schedule. But I would say that I've always felt it was that you need to have that type of back thing, someone who can sit back and listen to your situation and then walk you through it. And we collectively, we're all sharing the same situation, along with all of your students, all their families. And so a lot of the advice you're getting today from the mentors is stuff that you can trickle down through to your organizations and to the people and your own families. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Master Oliver. But I do have a lot of stuff. Grandmaster Smith, do you want to talk 1 minute about the Junri fiasco, or?
Well, we don't have to open old wounds, But I really think it's all about, and Master Oliver's going to go over a good game plan for you to not just float along in this. The best advice in this situation is not to panic and not close your school, not refund people money and stuff like that. But the idea is that we want to try to make sure that they're confident that what's going on. So you've got to stay abreast of the president talking and the CDC talking on a daily basis, and be up to date with the latest if they have any questions for you. But, the sanitizing and things like that. But, they are saying you can have small groups. So that's what Master Oliver's going to go over with everybody. What I would like to give everybody as an overview is just to remember that what we're going to try to do, and which is easy, we have the capacity to do this, is to give our students and parents more value than what they're paying you right now. They're going to want to say, well, we want to stop our payments for a while. Well, you got to let them know that they're in a program, that the payments don't stop, but we will extend the time. And as a matter of fact, during this situation we have, we're going to be video playing live, and you can then watch them on replay or watch them live. And we'd like you to use your homework sheets to keep track of your practice sessions at home, and you'll get credit for that. And you can put your lessons on hold. And that time that
we'll get to all of that.
Yeah, I'm just going to say the one. I just want to say the one overview, and then I won't say anything. What you want to give them is double value. So if they freeze it for a month, we're also going to add a month free onto the program, and they still get those live meetings. And Master Oliver's going to cover how you can actually even do some more business.
And let's do kind of one thing at a time here. So, starting point, let's talk about where we're at right now. We certainly know that Seattle, New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, a couple of other cities, have reacted more strongly, including Denver and state of Colorado have reacted more strongly and have a little bit more of a nucleus of this outbreak. And of course, it kind of one of the places that it was a starting point is there in Washington State and Seattle specifically. So we know that there's some differentiation in the way that different cities are reacting, what kind of directives you're getting, and so forth. What I worry about is, one, reacting to any directive, reacting to any news as if it's binary. And what I mean by that is, it's not like a computer where the digits either on or off, it's either yes or no. There's a wide spectrum between I lock the door, I go home, watch Netflix, and stock up on frozen pizzas for 2 months and sit there and then go back to work in 2 months. There's a big spectrum between that. And you have a full class schedule. You have 300, 500, however many people coming in. You have days when it's a madhouse and there's 120 people. and it's steamy and the windows are fogging up. See, there's a vast spectrum between what may be normal run of business for your facility and going home and, go home, chill, watch Netflix, and eat whatever you've stocked up from your run on Walmart, right? Big spectrum. And what I see, and I see it in our Facebook group, I see it hearing and talking to some of you guys, is a lot of you have reacted, not a lot, but some have reacted to this very emotionally and the sky is falling and this is going to crush my business and oh my God, everything is horrible. Well, one, this too shall pass. So you need to write that down. This too shall pass. This is going to be relatively short term. And, you've got, again, I'm not with the CDC. I'm not a medical doctor, nor my attorney. So none of this is medical or legal advice. But Don just came back from South Korea when they were in the throes of all of this stuff. And if you look at South Korea and you look at China, as soon as everything peaks and then it starts falling, and the mission of all this quarantining and shutting down restaurants and all of this stuff is to what they call flatten the curve. So you have a bell curve. Most viral outbreaks, including the flu, kind of follow a bell curve where there's a peak and then it valleys. And what they want to do is they want to make the peak a lot lower. They want to make sure the peak doesn't get so high that it starts taxing the hospitals and taxing medical facilities. And then by getting the peak to be lower, by taking the next couple of weeks and reducing, increasing social distancing, decreasing 300 people are in a smoky bar, and no, I guess they don't smoke anymore, but 300 people are in a bar shoved into 1,200 square feet in Manhattan, for instance. They want to reduce that level of dense social contact, but at the same time, keep the economy going as strongly as it can be going, right? So what we know for sure is that we're going to have a window when this thing is completely done, and we're going to have a window where it's hit its peak and it's started to go down, just like the Wuhan province in China, where in theory this started with somebody ate a bat and it transitioned from some animal that you don't normally eat into the human population. So in Wuhan, the factories are already back in gear, and it's tapered way off. The number of new cases is way down, et cetera. So start with and write it down and star it. This too shall pass. It's not going to be a massive crisis for your school, for your business, unless you lose your mind and you start spending 4 hours a day on social media and watching the news 24/7. What I would like everybody to do is discipline yourself. If you can, every day, watch the White House briefing. If you can, every day, go to the CDC site and look for updates. Figure out, and I've looked up a number of them, figure out what your CDC version of your state is, state of Washington, state of New York, state of Colorado, et cetera. I was looking at our Colorado version yesterday. Go to the official site and see what they're saying and what they're recommending and what they're requiring, right? I would discipline yourself to start ignoring all but the most credible news sources. I was all day yesterday, I watched the White House press briefing, and then I watched the news on social media, and what was said on the White House press briefing didn't have much resemblance to what the news was saying had just been said. There is an enormous amount of low IQ reporters, and there's an enormous amount of social hysteria that's going on. And I want to add to this is some of you may have done this in your summer camps or in birthday parties or something, but back when I was in elementary school, we used to do that game where you make a big line of people, and at one end, somebody tells a story or says a word, and then it goes through from person to person to person to person to person. And by the time it gets to the person at the end, it bears no resemblance to what happened at the first, right? That's going on a lot. And, anybody who's in my world of reference If they're sending me some YouTube's, video about how to cure coronavirus, or they're sending me some unsubstantiated report from some news source, frankly, from news sources that I don't trust, which is frankly most of them right now, I'm responding back, don't send me this shit. I don't want this crazy crap. Let's go with what's real, and let's avoid all the stuff that's not real. So rule number one is you've got to stop listening to your neighbors. You've got to stop listening to idiot reporters who don't know what they're talking about. Go directly to the source for any news on this stuff. And at a state and local level, the most credible source is directly to the CDC equivalent in your state. I'm sure everybody has one. I looked it up for Washington State, I looked it up for New York, and I looked it up for Colorado yesterday. Go directly to that source. When you're looking for news on what's being required and what's going on, please don't, follow the governor's Twitter feed and then make decisions on your business on the Twitter feed. Not to beat anybody up, but 2 or 3 people were posting Cuomo's Twitter feed yesterday and making decisions on how to operate in New York based upon Andrew Cuomo's Twitter feed. Well, that's not very substantial. The official, 143 characters or whatever the hell it is nowadays is not enough information to base what you're going to do, how you're going to behave, and how this is going to go. So please don't get your news from Twitter. Please don't get your news from Facebook. Please don't get your news from Instagram and Snapchat. Please discipline yourself to watch the White House press briefing. Go to the CDC. That's national and credible. Discipline yourself to go to your state version of the CDC. If there's a city or a district in your area that has a comparable, pay attention to that. And discipline yourself to every day to check in with each of those things and know what exactly is going on rather than drawing a conclusion. Okay? So the next thing is, I know that Manhattan is a little bit different than in the middle of Tennessee, but generally what we want to do is we want to be compliant with local regulations and keep in mind that we are still going to have a fabulous month revenue-wise, and always start with the blank legal pad of, within these constraints, how do I have a fabulous March? Within these constraints, how do I have a fabulous April, right? So let's go to Ken Gibson here in New York City. And Ken, hate to make political statements in this, but you have a mayor who's a moron. But let's start with, we have a governor who's a moron in Colorado. But within this context, what he has done is he tweeted, bars are closed, restaurants are closed, gyms are closed. Well, there is a question, by the way, anytime they say fitness centers, gyms, recreation centers, don't automatically assume that that's a dictate directed at you. Write that down and make that always. Don't automatically assume that that's a dictate aimed at a karate school. I get into this argument all the time when it comes to contract law, is we are not the 24-hour fitness that has 5,000 people going through every day, that has 182 pieces of equipment, and has people sitting together side by side, 10 people in the sauna. That is not us. So don't automatically make a knee-jerk reaction that that's us, right? What we know is, on a federal level, the CDC recommended no public gatherings over 50. Yesterday, the White House said, try to limit social gatherings to 10 or fewer people. What we also know is that what they have said is increase social distancing. In other words, if you have a small group of people, try to, set it up so there's at least 6 feet in between each of those people. The guidelines for eat-in restaurants before they were closed was no more than 6 at a table. Tables can't be closer than 6 foot apart. No bar service, in other words, no people standing at the bar, and no serving people who were standing up to avoid all that kind of crowding and stuff. Now, of course, a lot of places, including Colorado, have said restaurants are closed for eat-in service. Now, that doesn't mean restaurants are closed. They're making, on a federal and state level, in almost all cities, a very dedicated effort to make sure the Wendy's drive-thru is open, the McDonald's drive-thru is open, the Starbucks drive-thru is open, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there are some exceptions, pockets, but in almost all cases, they're making sure the grocery stores are open. So there's no need to go buy 3 years of toilet paper. Don't be a moron. The supply chain is intact. Even the restaurants that are closed for eat-in service, many of them are open for carry-out service. So they're still able to do revenue and so forth. So let's think about how some of this applies to us. In most places, you can do what Scott Sullivan did. So Scott, let me have you unmute, and I'm glad to have you on our meeting today. And you have done this, Amanda Olson has done this, several people have done this, but you communicated it very effectively early on. We shared yours. So Scott, explain to us what you implemented last week.
Okay, so what we did immediately was we made schedule revisions. We had no more than 10 in a class. I ran them all day long. So from 9, 10, 11, 12. And we have sectioned out our mats. I can send you guys a picture if you want to see it.
Absolutely.
6-foot squares. So the kids are like in a little box, combing everything off. And you can literally see where the kids are. And you can, with the visual, you can see how much space they have. So it's pretty obvious. We screen for fevers at the door. Obviously, we're looking for other symptoms, but people are most contagious when they're symptomatic. So that's a precaution. And then, so that's all the in-house stuff we did.
Well, let's start. Let's analyze each of those a little bit more thoroughly, and then finish your sentence. You're screening for fever at the door. So I had a doctor's appointment yesterday at Kaiser Permanente, follow up from my eye surgery. I walked in the front door. They had a couple of the front doors blocked, and there's 2 tables sitting there, a person at each table. And you walked in, and they said, "Have you been running a fever?" No. Have you had a cough? No. If your answer to either one of them was yes, they gave you a mask to wear in the facility. And by the way, their staff were all wearing masks, or at least the docs were. I'm not sure that all the other staff were, but the people at the doors were not. You're taking that a step further, Scott. So at the front door, you've basically got the front desk or a desk at the barrier, and you're asking them some questions. So how's that been going?
That's been going great. So they come in and we're very careful about keeping everybody apart. Parents stay outside, which is kind of nice for a change. Kids seem better behaved. So they come in, they go to their square, and we're doing routines. Now, we've been mostly a jiu-jitsu school, even though my main background has always been Muay Thai, but I'm transitioning the curriculum over because it's hard to do jiu-jitsu for 45 minutes by yourself. So we're doing a lot of kickboxing drills, standing up, blocking, etc. And then when that class is over, we escort the kids out one by one, making sure everybody washes their hands again, etc. And then I've got a cleaning crew. It's pretty amazing. They come in and they just shoom, and they've got bleach. They're wiping down mats, pads, etc. For the next one, they got a 15-minute window there for the next group to come in. So, I think we're doing as much as can reasonably be expected here with the social distancing, checking fevers at the door, clean place, wash hands, etc.
Yeah, and so the questions at the door would be, have you been feeling well? Have you had a cough, runny nose? Do you have a fever? In your case, I assume you have one of those little forehead swipe things.
Yeah, and let me add something, Master Oliver. So, my school is in an area, it's the Texas Medical Center. So a good chunk of my students, the parents are physicians, either the mom or the dad, or often both. They're coming to class. They're coming with their kids. They're saying how much they appreciate it. So in doing this, we've received a ton of positive feedback. Now, obviously, attendance is low. I think they're running about 60%, given what we can do. But nevertheless, parents are very happy, and these are medical professionals saying how grateful they are that we aren't closing shop.
Yeah.
And you were also having them use the sanitizer on the way in and the way out, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
Or washing their hands. Washing your hands works better. So remember, just soap and water is just fine. I hate to keep saying that. I just hate the hand sanitizer stuff on a normal basis. Right now it's useful, but so Scott, I interrupted your sentence. I just wanted to get everybody get the idea that you're in fact checking their temperature. I assume taking a alcohol swab and, between people and having a few precautions, but, ask them the limited number of questions, take their temperature. And if they, pass the test, you're letting them come on in, and you're keeping 6 foot between. And in a jiu-jitsu school, they're not doing partner work. They're not actually rolling with a partner.
Right. And so that was for the people who wanted to come in-house, and obviously there are going to be those who don't want to do that. So I scrambled over the weekend, and I don't know how many hours. I think I put in 40 hours, something just over the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and getting our online school up. We launched it today. People are enrolling right now, and it's a pretty good platform. I don't know if you guys have heard of Teachable, but I had known about it, but I had to learn to use it over the weekend. So that's why it took so long. But man, it's an amazing platform to run online classes. It's $100 a month. I'm keeping it after this. I like it so much. I just think it's a great resource for the students. So that's rolling right now as well. I've got jiu-jitsu curriculum for them to watch. We're doing daily Muay Thai live stream classes for them to do. I have character training videos for them to follow there. And then we're going to be recording, we're going to be testing them on the material when they come back, and it's going to be credited to them in terms of their attendance as well.
Fantastic. So let's talk about the live streaming classes. Scott, tell them a little bit about how that's been going on, and let's get feedback from everybody else who's doing that right now.
Well, I didn't know how to do this. I have somewhat of a technical background, but that I've never done, so I had to scramble. But I'm just doing it simple. YouTube live stream is extremely easy. Phone and the YouTube app. I mean, you literally just open up the YouTube app and you hit the little plus sign on the camera at the top, and you're live. I mean, you type in some information, you're good to go. So it's not hard to do. If you guys have a YouTube channel, I sent the link out to our YouTube channel today, and we're going to live stream our first class in about an hour and a half.
Master Oliver, I have something that I did that very, very similar. If you're interested.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Oh, okay. So last night, well, over the weekend, just the same as Scott did, we actually, well, we called Bob Dunn a little bit, I think on Friday or so, and we asked him, how this software actually works. And so we purchased the Zoom software, and then we were able to, last night for the first time we've ever done this, we had one person holding the camera, and then we were able to see all the other people like we do, just like here. And we had one instructor giving the instruction, one person holding the camera. We had a couple more instructors. We were able to see everyone as they were doing things at home, and we were able to make corrections and comments and make sure they're on the right foot, doing all the things that they were supposed to. So we were interacting with them and talking to them, and it was a great day. The first time doing this, and we were keeping attendance. We were still having the regular classes, and they were very small, but we went ahead with the online class right from the get-go. There are people that are keeping their kids home. All schools closed. It worked out well. We had about 50 people in total, which is still very small, but it worked out great. Yeah.
So you and everybody compare these two approaches. Jimmy, your approach was using the same platform, which I love, and making it interactive. So a whole bunch of students were on video camera, and you were actually able to see what they were doing. You were able to give direction, replicating a interactive kind of normal class, right?
Right.
And what Scott was doing is basically a one-to-many projection. So when if you're running a class and you live stream that class, if you want to make it not interactive, in other words, a student can watch it at home, but you're not able to see the student and you're not interacting and giving them feedback, YouTube Live works great for that. Facebook Live works well for that. I think YouTube Live is about as good as it gets. You can also do Periscope, and there's a number of other products for that. What Master Gracer was doing is, what Jimmy was doing is actually doing a meeting like this, putting the students on camera, having them demonstrate, give feedback, and having a very interactive class. I think that's extremely exciting, doing it that way.
The plus is too, sir, that's, it's recorded. So obviously you could then send that class out to anybody who maybe, needed the replay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, in both cases they would be recorded, but absolutely, yeah.
And the big plus on this, Master Oliver, is that they can still freeze their time if they don't want to come in.
Master Smith, we're going to get to that later. Let's not get to programs and all that stuff. Let's stay on projecting the classes live. I know Amanda Olson has started some of that. Amanda, tell us your experience so far.
It's been very well received by everyone, and a lot of parents today. I was getting a lot of emails and messages about, oh, thanks so much for this, and pictures from the kids and videos of them working out at home this morning. So that was very encouraging. Everybody's grateful for us being able to provide a way to continue training and something for everybody to do. We've also done the semi-private lessons, and I did post a little video of what that looked like here. So we're being able to keep the groups under 10, and people are, again, they're just very appreciative. So it's working well. It's our first day, and we've been very happy with how smooth it's going.
Which format are you using for the videos, the streaming?
So right now I'm just using, I'm just videoing the class with my phone, and then I'm not actually streaming them. I'm uploading them to my YouTube channel and asking people to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then that way they'll get updates. And I have a lot of videos that I can keep uploading besides just the ones we're doing, and actually hoping to increase the subscription to the YouTube channel.
Good.
But I do like the live stream. I'll have to check into that Teachable. That sounds neat.
One more benefit to having the Zoom package is that not only was I able to teach the class and make corrections, but I also there was another element, and bringing it back to where just staying in touch and staying connected with the people that we're already, families with, is that I was able to see into their houses, and I could see their brothers, and I could see their dog, and I could see where their stairs were and their couches. And one of the kids was, as they were doing the kicks, they were cheating, holding on. So just those little things. And I said, Robbie, I see you cheating over there. Get your hand off the chair. So there was laughing, and there's just a good feeling that happens with that, because you're right there with it. So
and these kids are stuck at home, so the parents probably appreciate keeping them busy.
They appreciated it so much. I had so much positive feedback from, and it was the first day. I don't even think that a lot of people may not be tech savvy enough to do it the first day, or I don't know if it was their schedule, but I'm expecting a lot more people today. So.
Yeah, and right now a lot of the public schools are doing some, and private as well, of course, but a lot of them are doing some version of this, right? My son's school, which I've been a little bit critical of, basically what they have is they have them log into Google Classroom and give them assignments during the day. But I know my daughter's college is using Zoom, and so they're logging in to live video conversations with the professor, lessons that are online and so forth. So more and more people are going to be familiar with these kind of platforms.
Well, I was going to say, Master Oliver, Arizona State University is 100% online. Now they converted that for this issue. Their classes are not normally, but they just had everybody do it. Now the kids are just taking class.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't change anything. They just moved online. And then if they went back to normal, then they would go back to class.
Yeah. Welcome, Master Mooney. Glad to see you made it from the many different countries you were trying to get through yesterday.
It was zero problem.
Good. I don't think there's any issues back and forth between the U.S. and Canada as yet that I'm aware of.
No, it's in Argentina that's a little bit weird, but that's okay. It's a different story.
Yeah, exactly.
Jimmy, this is Dave Grout.
Go ahead, Dave.
What did it take or cost to get the Zoom set up, and how many students can it handle?
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Okay, so I didn't know exactly how the software works, so I kind of over-purchased a little bit. So there's a normal package for about 14 or 15, 99 a month, and you can have up to about 100 students participating in that group. It's recordable, and so what I did is I purchased just for the time being 5 hosts, because if this goes on for a longer period of time, I wanted every instructor to be able to work individually with whether it's curriculum or if we're teaching forms. They have to be able to just have a small amount of students per instructor. So I may not have needed that, but I went ahead and I just pulled the trigger on getting more than enough to handle the things that I needed. So
it's not that expensive anyway, so it's pretty reasonably priced.
Yeah, to kind of give you a range, and I'm looking at their pricing sheet now, but we're very, very familiar with Zoom, and I highly recommend it, by the way. I love it. And by the way, I hate GoToMeeting, so to give you a comparison. But at $200 a month, you can include up to 300 people at a time. At $15 a month, you can include up to 100 people at a time. And they also have a webinar function. And with the webinar function, you can choose to go essentially up to an unlimited number of people, although I don't think any of us need that. But also with the webinar function, you can also broadcast live onto Facebook Live, and I think perhaps onto YouTube Live. Yeah, there you go, at the same time. So really, you know, for $15 a month for anybody on the meeting here, that's probably all you would possibly need for the time being.
Right. This one's the one that I have.
Yeah.
And then if somebody's using it other than me, I just give them my login.
Yeah. And we use the business package. But I don't think anybody on the meeting here needs to, because the business package isn't $19.99, it's $19.99 times 10. So I don't think anybody here needs that. But again, for doing an interactive meeting, Zoom is just so easy. An awful lot of the kids are already familiar with it. For doing a one-to-many broadcast, Facebook Live and YouTube, and I would prioritize YouTube. People are used to, the kids certainly are used to going to YouTube to watch videos. If you actually do we're going to stage a lesson and send it out to everybody, then you can just shoot it on your iPhone or your Android phone or whatever, and then you can upload it to Facebook. You can upload it to Facebook. You can upload it to a group for your students. You can upload it to YouTube. You can then text people out the link to the YouTube video. You can email out the link to the YouTube video, all of that kind of stuff, right?
Well, Master Oliver, I would also suggest they post it on their blog, or if they have a podcast page, they put it on their podcast page, but a blog page is another way to do that. And then you can direct your students. It improves your Google ranking if they go through your page.
Can I ask real quick about this Zoom, some of the hardware, because if you've got, say you got 20 students you're trying to interact with, how do you see them? You got an iPad there?
You do, well, Scott, you do it every time you do this.
Just
like what we're doing.
But I'm just seeing you right now when you speak. If I looked at
okay,
everybody,
at the top right-hand corner, right-hand corner of your screen right now says Gallery View.
And you can see everybody.
Then you can see everybody.
Okay, but are you, if you're teaching, do you have like a large screen so you can make it easier to see? I'm just wondering what you guys do.
Yeah, you could plug your TV into an 80-inch flat screen TV if you wanted.
Got it.
Yeah. You know, I mean, sitting on my desk, I have the equivalent of 6 monitors. You know, they're double size, oversized monitors, and I mean, I could run a class and see everybody on that. But you know, you can take a PC or a Mac and plug it into, as long as the computer had an HDMI out and the TV had an HDMI in, you could put it on any size. Hell, you could do it on a projector. And you could get damn good projectors nowadays for $500. You could project on the wall and have, 50 people at home and have the normal class going on. And that's, by the way, something you could do. You could, if you had a big clean wall, or you hung up a sheet, or you had a projector screen, you could have the Zoom screen projected on the wall, and you could have 5 or 10 people physically there and have everybody else projected on the wall that you're giving feedback. I mean, it's just that easy. And
If you have a device, you can stream it up to you can just stream mirroring it up with no wires. So that works too.
Oh, that's true. With what's the Chrome version? A Chromecast dongle, or with
Right.
call it, or you could do it with an Apple TV, and then you just project it up to the TV. Or you're exactly right, Jimmy. You could project it up without wirelessly easily.
Yeah, none of these are very difficult technology-wise, but I mean, I know some of you guys are not, so get a little worried about the technology. Really don't get too caught up in having to see every student when they're in that class if you do something like that either. Don't get too caught up. You're providing a pretty neat solution for them that they can train. If they show up, they're going to be pretty excited about seeing you.
Yeah.
I had a quick question as far as the Chromecast goes. So does anybody know, have you ever tried to do Zoom through Chromecast?
Well, it wouldn't be doing Zoom through Chromecast. It'd be using the Chromecast to project it on another device.
Yeah, it's using Chromecast to turn your TV into another monitor.
So I was trying to do that this morning, but every time Zoom would pop up for the meeting, it wouldn't show it on the other computer. It would show like the main screen for Zoom on the web, but it wouldn't show the actual, like this one I'm looking at.
I think you want to be in mirroring mode. You're not trying to use the computer. I don't want to speak for Master Oliver there. I haven't used it on Chromecast because my stuff's all Apple.
Yeah.
But I think you'd have it in some kind of mirroring mode in Chromecast. So you just want to mirror your screen. So it'd be operating the same way as your computer. Your computer would run the video, and your computer would run the camera, and then the TV would just be so you could see everything big.
Okay.
I do have a question.
I think that would be the simplest way to do it. There are a lot of video conferencing solutions that you could use big TVs. You put a camera up by the TV, and the TV becomes your video. But I mean, you don't really need to bother, I don't think. I mean, that's probably overkill.
Yeah. Yeah, or you could just run an HDMI wire into your TV and you're done.
That works
That's
too.
my next option.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works really good too.
And I also have 100% experience with Apple, not with Chromecast and stuff. So, but it should be pretty easy to just mirror it on whatever size TV. But again, I mean, even the big full wall projectors nowadays are super inexpensive. So probably for $500 more or less, you could go to Staples or Office Max and get one, or order it from Amazon if you wanted to.
I do have a question. I'm using Zoom right now because what we're doing private lessons for all our students every single day. We're actually here right now. Half of us are on Zoom for private lessons, or some kids are coming in for one-on-one lessons.
Yeah.
I had bought 2 licenses on Zoom, and I can't seem to use both of them. I don't know if anyone has ever. I know people are using 2 different hostess, but I'm not able to do that right now. I don't know if I'm doing it correctly, or if anyone has any advice on how to do that.
You bought it for 2 hosts?
So that way I can use one iPad with the same. So I got the professional one. I think it was the $19.99, but I got 2 of those under the same email account.
Yeah.
I thought that would allow me to be able to host 2 different meetings.
Oh, you got to get it under different email accounts.
That's what I did wrong then.
Yeah, well, and by the way, you don't need 2 host accounts for that. You guys see me use my iPad sometimes. I've got like 4 accounts. I've got my main one that I use, my pro account. Then I've got one that's just under one of my other email addresses that I log into if I want to use my iPad. The host account is what hosts it. But if you want to use another video stream from Zoom, just do it with another email address to get the free account. The host is what allows you to have the multiple people, and it allows you to have a better time limit, because you could all use the free account. It's just that it times out after a while, and there's a limit to the size. So that's why you want to pay the $20 for it.
I think I'm paying the $20 because we have private lessons from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 6 back to back to back to back. So that way, instead of having to send them a new link, I sent everyone, this is my host number. And that's how it's been working with the other 2 iPads. But this, my second account, I thought I could do. I just have to create another account. So that way, again, same thing. If we're shut down and we can't do anything here at the school, all my staff can still teach their private lessons from home.
Yeah, we should have you're not normally everybody's doing private lessons, are you?
No, correct. This is the
Okay.
only time because we're in that moment where we're not allowed to be open. So we're just doing private lessons to, we're also videotaping our classes. So we're offering 2 video classes per belt rank so that kids can continue to progress and then take the private lessons. So we're doing a lot.
Excellent. Okay, so that clarified that. No, what you would, if you have, let's say you had 5 private lessons going on at the same time, right? You could do it where you bought one account with 5 different hosts, right? Like for us, we could have this meeting going on. We could have the martial arts, the mastery meeting going on. Bob could be doing a walkthrough, and Master Smith could have a personal conversation with somebody, and Master Moody could have a personal conversation going all at the same time. Because we have 10 hosts, which means we could have 10 separate, complete different things going on at any one time. But for each of those rooms, I have to log in with a different email address, right?
Gotcha.
It cues off that as who's logging into that room. And so if you bought, 2 of the $14.99 packages, you'd have to, put one under a Gmail address, one under your school address, or whatever it might be.
Okay.
So that they can log into those different rooms.
I'm gonna have to give that a try then.
Yeah.
But Master Oliver, I just want to point out to everybody, if you wanted to have just a different video feed and you wanted to have, you don't have to have like a host account for that. So if you want to have multiple video feeds, don't go buying a host account. If you just want to have 2 angles on your, that's not a bad idea. If you had 2 angles on your camera, that'd be fine. You just have another free account, and that can log in 100% of the time. You don't have to pay for anything for that. So I do that all the time.
Yeah, and let me paraphrase so everybody knows what he's talking about. This is not 2 separate things going on, 2 separate private classes. I have a group class going on, and if I wanted to have my iPhone in the front, then I wanted to have an iPad on the back left, and I wanted to have a PC at the side, and so there were 3 different views of the class all going on at the same time. I can do that with one account.
One host account and then multiple email accounts for the other ones with free accounts. You don't have to have hosts for those.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't even have to have, but you're just all logging into the same meeting, but then projecting it from different angles. And that's something you can do easily as well.
You can also utilize the breakout rooms too, sir, depending on how many. The only problem with the breakout rooms, you can't record all those broken out rooms, but they can obviously do what we're trying to accomplish.
Oh, well, that's exactly right. So you can run Zoom like it's a school with 5 classrooms. You could say, everyone who's a gold belt, we're going to put you in this room. Everybody who's a green belt, we're going to put you in this room. Everybody who's under 6, we're going to put whatever. And then you just decide and sort people out. And you can do that with just one account. So it has breakout rooms, just like you would do in a classroom, where you can split them up into different rooms with different instructors.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So yeah, this is a marvelous platform for anything interactive, and anything that's one-to-many. I would, and I on all of this stuff, I would recommend that you make as much as possible of it live, not pre-recorded, which is also why you don't need to do the studio setup and make the perfect video and act like this is now permanent curriculum videos that we're going to give to people on DVD. In fact, what they'll appreciate the most is you're in there in the school and you're saying, hey, today on Tuesday, here's what I'd like everybody to do as your 30-minute workout routine at home. And you maybe you broadcast it live at 9 a.m. every day. And then you post it on YouTube, and you post it on your Facebook group, and you send out a text and say, your daily workout is up online. and then you let them know we're going to do a beginners class today at noon as a group and at 5 o'clock as a group. So here's the link to join in. I mean, you could do all of those things to make it probably higher level of service than it would normally be. So Ken, is this giving you some ideas? So if you're more on Mayor says everybody has to be shut down no matter what, we're going to quarantine in place. Well, so what? We don't have to be closed. What we have to do is not unlock the doors and have a bunch of people in there. The same as a restaurant, you know, letting people walk in order to take out is fulfilling the needs of the legalities, and is more importantly is fulfilling the need of not keeping the virus from spreading, which is more important. You know, but again, what I want everybody to get so far, and we still have 3 more topics here, is number one, take a deep breath. Do not panic. You're not going to get students out of cycle. You're going to keep them training. You're going to stay personally engaged. You're going to interact with them. In fact, you're going to have more hand-holding with the ones that need it the most than you would any other time. So you're going to stay on top of them. You're going to hold their hand. You're going to focus on their needs. You're going to keep them engaged. And frankly, especially with the adult market, a lot of them are already working remotely right now. And with the kids market, a lot of them are having to do class from remote, whether it's college students or whether it's elementary school students. So you'll actually, you know, we're way more sophisticated than my son's elementary school, for instance. So they will appreciate all of these efforts, right? So any questions on how to do a live cast or a pre-recorded video that you can share with everyone?
One question.
Go ahead.
What type of camera do you use? Would you just use a laptop to do the Zoom meeting? Phone?
Your phone camera is really good.
Yeah. If you have anywhere within the last 3 years smartphone, they're like really good, right?
Mount it and go with that.
Say it again.
Just mount the phone and use that for Zoom. There you go.
There you go.
Like
The only reason that you need a bigger screen is if you're interactively trying to watch the students at the other end, right? So that would be, maybe you do it on your, maybe one of the feeds is your laptop is plugged into a projector on the wall, or your laptop is plugged into a big flat screen TV. Because, and you guys, if you watch this in gallery view right now, what you see is, a little difficult to keep track of everybody, and I'm doing it on a screen that's like that big, right? So you want it to be on a big screen for your benefit to be able to see when it's interactive. But from a standpoint of them being able to see what's going on, one of these little camera holders, which you can get at Walmart or at Best Buy, and this is a little stand that can be, you can wrap it around a pole, and this whole setup is maybe, I don't know, $30. Or you can get a floor standing tripod, and then this thing just screws onto their normal tripod.
Master Oliver, they can do the same thing with an iPad. And the iPad, I'm actually looking on an iPad now, and when I see the gallery, I can touch on any one person, and then that person will come up on the whole screen. So I could, just like I would in class, go from person to person. I could touch on each of the individual ones and look at them for a couple minutes, go to the next one, look at them for a couple minutes, even if I was on an iPad. So, make sure you do that too. And I know, Master Oliver, you had talked about doing a special schedule for these guys on a daily basis to kind of get them over the hump. And I think a lot of the guys we have are a little techno savvy, and they need a little extra guidance. So it might help to do, if you're doing one of these formats, Zoom or one of the others you were talking about, is to actually do a screen share and actually take them through and kind of like a tutorial and show some of them for the ones that need a little extra help. that way each day we hit on something a little different, and that way we'll keep them all up to speed and make sure that they can all know how to access all of these things we're talking about. Because I guarantee you, if your students know they can do all this kind of stuff and they're going to get that time back that they missed classes, they will want to continue paying. So it's going to be important that if you don't know how to get up to speed on this, we will be sharing that. But check with us so if you need extra help.
Yeah.
Hey, sir, one quick little side thing. If anybody's using Ring Central, it's the same platform as Zoom, but they actually, I don't know if it's recently, but they have a maximum of 100 on there as well. So if you're already using Ring Central, you don't need to go get Zoom or anything like that, because it is.
It's already included in the price.
It's built in,
Yeah. That's exactly right. And I recommend you use Ring Central, by the way, and then you don't need an extra account. Pretty much anything that anybody's going to do with Zoom for our purposes is 5 different individual things going on different links. It'd be $15 a month for each one of those. So it's super inexpensive. And again, if you were going to I'm going to film a lesson and then I'm going to share it on YouTube or Facebook the way that Amanda Olson did yesterday. You don't need anything but an Android phone or an iPhone, and then you just upload the video into YouTube and you upload the video into your Facebook page and your Facebook group. And anywhere else you want. You can syndicate it all over the place if you want. However, I would recommend that maybe you do a lesson at 9 a.m. every day or something like that, since the kids are out of school in many places. Here's our workout for the day. I would recommend you do it live so that they can work out with you live. And then you can post that so anyone who didn't show up at that time, they can watch it all day, and then you do another one the next day, right? The other thing is, assuming you're in an area where you feel comfortable, and I think the threshold we should be working on is not 50, but 10 at this point. But if you're in an area where you feel comfortable, you're in Oklahoma or Kansas, or West Virginia hasn't had any cases yet, whatever. But if you're in an area where you're comfortable, you just have, somebody at the front door, you've been running a fever, and I prefer to, swipe their forehead, make sure you clean it each time, but, take their temperature, ask them if they've been having a cough or a runny nose, sneezing and so forth, or if they've been feeling ill. You don't want anybody coming into the school who's been feeling flu-like, cold-like symptoms or running a fever. But then you do what Scott said, is you block off the floor and you have up to 10 at a time, and you keep them 6 foot apart. You don't have them do partner drills. You don't have them do, grappling together. You don't have any kind of them rolling together or anything, because that's going to screw up the whole social distancing deal. But what I would then also do is make sure you live cast all of those classes and let people at home follow along with what you're doing. The live casting, if you spend $100 total on this stuff, that would be plenty. And if you want to get sophisticated, you can get a little lavalier mic for yourself that's wireless, and it can hook up to your iPhone, because that's usually where the biggest thing is. The video quality is good, the audio quality. On my desk, I have this big professional microphone, because if I leave it up to the camera, the audio quality isn't very good. So you might get a little bit better microphone. In the case of martial arts, I'd get a little lavalier that's Bluetooth, so that then they can hear your voice specifically.
Yeah, you could use an AirPod, a one-ear AirPod.
Oh, that's right. Especially the new AirPod Pros are fabulous.
Yeah, because you can turn them on. They're supposed to be noise canceling, but you put them in a setting where it's transparency, so you can hear everything. Just put one ear in. Those will work great, and it'll do the same exact thing. And they hook up to your iPhone. If you have an iPhone, they even hooked up to non-iPhones for you guys that aren't iPhone people.
Yeah, they're just Bluetooth.
Yeah. So I have one, and you could just put one ear in, and they work great. So you wouldn't even have to do anything special. Stick it in your ear. You're talking. It's what's hooked up to the phone. You can even then hear people that are talking on the, that maybe have a question that are talking on the what's becoming a video, class.
Yeah, and that's the pro model, right? That's the one you're talking about.
Either one would work just fine. The pro model is a little bit nicer, but you could use the other one.
Either one.
Yeah, either one would work just fine. The regular one doesn't noise cancel. The only reason you don't want the noise canceling is if there's people in the class, then you want to hear them too. So I just put one ear in. It'll work fine. It'll work great as a microphone. It'll work perfect. So you don't have to goof around. They don't really. You just got a thing sticking out of your ear. That's it.
Yeah. Now let's go back to the start of the meeting. And any questions you have about doing any of this technical stuff, I got to tell you, it's super easy. And if you can't figure it out yourself, get a middle school kid or a high school kid. My 11-year-old son could set all this stuff up and broadcast it live with zero problems, right?
Sure. One question.
If that seems too much, just sign up for Zoom and do it, and it really walks you through it. It's really easy.
Yeah, and I have posted in the Facebook group, by the way, a tutorial on how to do, I think, Periscope Live, which wouldn't be my choice, YouTube Live, which would be, Facebook Live, and have also the tutorials for Zoom. But the Zoom platform is just super duper easy. And for yourself, I'd say it's worth doing something where you project it up in big enough format that you can see everybody, and do at least 1 or 2 classes a day where it's interactive in that way. But I would definitely recommend every day in the morning you give, because the kids are home from school, here's our daily 30-minute workout. If you want to show up with us live at 9 a.m., show up with us live. Otherwise, you can watch the recording and do it with us every day. And then do some interactive stuff as well. Go ahead. You had a question, Jason.
Yeah, so not really a question, but again, the thought that I had, and I posted this on the group, was if each of us make like 3 or 4 videos, workout videos, 10 to 15 minutes long, and then share them with everybody. So telling our students, look, we want you guys to go around the world with martial arts and learn a little bit of kickboxing, learn a little bit of kung fu, learn a little bit of whatever, right? And just have that, if all of us, shared just a couple of videos, we could have over 100 videos to then give to all of our students. I think that'd be really cool. If anybody's interested in that, I know a couple of people have responded to me, but I'd love to do something like that if anybody else is interested too.
Sure, if you'd like to share those, then the Facebook group would be a good place to do that.
Yeah, we'll do that. Cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, Master Oliver.
Okay, sorry about that. But Jason, let's stick with your comment for a second. One, I think it's a fabulous idea. We actually tried doing it about 8 years ago. Of course, the technology has improved since then. Where back in the NAPMA days with 1,000 members, we set up the technology platform and we're encouraging people to upload drills and curriculum and one thing or another. In fact, somewhere we have literally thousands of hours of curriculum videos sitting around, literally collecting dust and on failing hard drives probably. I think it's a wonderful idea, Jason. Anytime I've tried in the past, I just had a hard time getting people to do it. So it takes a lot of prodding and reminding and so forth to do that. But
now it's easier.
Yeah, it's much easier. What we certainly know is the finest martial arts talent in the room in the world is gathered here on this meeting right now. So if everybody brought their best stuff to bear, it would be just incredible. And so I think it's a fabulous idea.
Mr. Oliver, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Olga.
I was gonna just say that yesterday we were on a call for the Carlos Machado Jiu-Jitsu Association, and that's what they're doing. And so they created this private group that we shared with all of our students. And so every day a black belt from our association posts the workout video. So we got the Friday workout. So so that's how they're doing it, and it was well received by our students. So everybody's excited to learn from black belts around the world.
Excellent. Excellent.
Maybe we can set up a private group as well where we can invite people.
Well, we have one right now. You're talking about something that we could plug students into?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. Everybody gestate that on a little bit. Anything that we could do where we get higher leverage, where all of the great minds are coming together and helping each other's students, I think is great. Different instructors are going to have different levels of comfort on what they want to expose their students to, what additional styles and techniques and so forth they want to be doing, as well as some level of quality control. So, there are some issues to grapple with. They go beyond, like, Carlos Machado is one of the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructors in the world. And I'm sure what is being posted there from a BJJ standpoint is impeccable. But it's a really good idea, Olga. Olga, would you tell everybody what your night looked like last night? I kind of started with that, but I'm sure I butchered. Yeah.
Well, those were results from the Friday night when we were starting to, get the talk of scare, and then yesterday. So those were the results from the Friday and the Monday.
And what were they?
So we got 2 renewals and we had 2 basic paid in fulls.
Okay, good.
I did have one, objection yesterday. We had a birthday party scheduled for this weekend, and they canceled, but they said they would like to entertain the idea of enrolling. When we sat down for enrollment conference, mom was all gung-ho about it. Dad was uneasy because they have an elderly, person in their household, and they said, we'll just come back when everything is reopened. So, but we get to keep their birthday money. We'll revisit when they, after this blows over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we'll be spending a lot of time talking about marketing during this as well. We haven't gotten a lot of time on this, and we've already been going an hour and 10 minutes. But what I will say is, don't assume that your enrollments are going to not continue to happen. Don't assume your marketing efforts aren't going to continue to expand. And don't assume that you're going to have a hit to your revenue. Okay? None of those things really should be true. Now, are there some barriers? Sure. There's some barriers in December because people say we'll get back to you after the holidays. There's barriers in July because we're going to visit grandma for 2 weeks. And in this case, we have a 2-week, maybe 2-month window. The biggest barrier is the fact that there's uncertainty, and until it peaks and starts its way down, there's not much we can do to alleviate that uncertainty. But what I will tell you is, on a marketing side, and we want to get to some other issues here, but on the marketing side, movie promotions aren't going to be good in the next 2 months. Regal cinemas are shutting down. So a lot of the others are shutting down. I think Mulan has already been delayed. The James Bond movie has been delayed. It's not a good time to do movie promotions for 2 months. Fine. It's not a good time to go out to a big open festival with 10,000 people if you're trying to keep public gatherings to 10 or less. Fine. It's a good time for Facebook. It's a good time for Google. It's a good time for following up on your prospect database. It's a good time for direct mail to cold leads. It's a wonderful time, as is always, for direct mail to your prospect database. It's a good time to get on the phone and go back to your prospects. And if anything, you now have a time where you can more or less have their undivided attention, because hell, Master Smith and I are already having withdrawal syndromes. Our movie theaters closed down at 8 o'clock last night, and the restaurants weren't doing dine-in service. Well, hell, I'm in a restaurant eating in dine-in service 15 times a week, probably. That's
and
probably
you guys go to movies about 4 times a week.
What's that?
And you guys go to movies about 4 times a week.
At least.
Probably. Well, yeah.
And I got my fix in yesterday. I got my fix in yesterday before they closed the theater.
Yeah. Yeah. How many I'm at it per week depends upon whether they are ones that pick my 11-year-old's interests.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll go see some of them 2 or 3 times with him.
There's much less to do. In our sport, our activity is pretty individual. For the most part. I mean, some of you guys that you're doing jiu-jitsu, it feels like it has to be very physical, interactive. But, compared to like a lot of other sports that are team sports versus individual kind of activities that we do, it is a much better activity for this type of environment.
Yeah. On this shift to, and by the way, what we did not talk about is if you're doing the 10 people maximum in a class, checking them on the way in the door, keeping the social distance to 6 foot, which I think in most every place in North America is still fine.
And I love the mat, the taping off the mat. That really gives a good visual.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mini tournament layout. That's beautiful. If you are doing that, then you need to be scheduling appointments so 30 people don't show up at the same time as would be normal. Scott, how are you going about doing that? Amanda, how are you going about doing that? I haven't seen Amanda Christensen on the meeting. She had a different approach, but how are you guys going about scheduling that so far?
What I've been doing is we use Zen Planner for our memberships, and so it's really easy. You change your schedule, and they can register. You put a cap on it, no more than 10, and it just takes care of everything.
Yeah.
Amanda's actually getting a crown on her tooth right now, but we're using Sign Up Genius.
Sign Up Genius, okay. And Sign Up Genius is free, isn't it?
No, I think we had to pay for it.
Okay.
It took her a little bit to get it all set up. Worked on it yesterday and while today. So she got that all figured out.
Yeah, but it's not much if it's paid up.
No, it's like everything else. It's fairly cheap. And you can just do it for a month or two.
What I don't know about Schedule Once, I think Schedule Once can do this. I'm not sure that it can just automatically cap out at 10. Bob, do you know?
I use Schedule Once and I cap out at 2 or 3 people.
Okay. So
you mean as far as appointments, Master Oliver? Hold on a second.
Yeah,
we'll schedule once. You can schedule once to be group appointments, and you can set any number of maximum.
Right.
So
it lets you put a cap?
It lets you put a cap of any number. So I think it's in multiples of 10.
Yeah. So if you're already using
maximum of 3, and it stops no more than 3 right now. I won't allow more than 3 privates at a time, and it caps it out at 3. It actually doesn't allow to be available after 3.
Yeah.
Maybe it goes 1 through 3 up to 10 and then 20, 30, 40, something like that. I think.
Yeah. So if you're already using Schedule Once, which I recommend highly, it sounds like Schedule Once will let you set a cap of 10, and then you can just have them, use the link for Schedule Once and schedule. And then that way it's reminding them, it's emailing them, it's texting them and all that. If that would be my preference. We heard Sign Up Genius. We heard one of the more comprehensive billing packages. What was it you said, Scott? But anyway,
Zen Planner?
Yeah, Zen
Planner.
Planner.
Zen Planner, a lot of people like.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to do it. What you'd want to do is have some way for them to register themselves, including just call and say, are there enough slots yet on Tuesday at 7, and just schedule themselves. But I believe in most places in North America, if you were keeping it to Scott Sullivan's approach, you're checking them at the front door. You've got 6 foot blocks on the floor. So they're staying, if they're there, they're 6 foot from the other person.
Cleaning between classes was very important.
Yeah, but you'd be fine. And then you have that scheduling app. If you wanted to go to pure virtual, or if you wanted to go to only in-person private, that's fine too. Jason, you were having a little bit of an emotional meltdown in one of your posts online, but if you are sick, if you have a fever, if you're coughing, if you have flu-like symptoms, if you're sneezing, don't be showing up at your school and teaching other people, for God's sake, right? So just like if you had the flu, just like if you had any other communicable disease, if you're sick or you have a staff member sick, the whole point of this whole thing is if you have a staff member sick, have them stay their ass at home. If you're sick, have them stay their ass at home.
And Master Oliver, what they were saying is that the doctors, the caregivers, they were wearing masks, or they were being more protective, because if they're out of commission, then they can't help all of these other people. So it might make sense, even in these private classes, for the instructors to wear something to give them extra protection so they don't catch something, because then they wouldn't be able to, share all that information like the caregivers are doing. And don't tell them, I'm not wearing it because I have it. I'm wearing it like the doctors are because they're the caregivers, and we have to protect our caregivers because if we're out of commission, then nobody gets any lessons. So we have to protect our staff even more.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to switch to a lab coat instead of a uniform.
No, let's not do that.
That
Now,
looks
if I
like
was,
a lab coat anyway.
now, if I'm in Manhattan, in the boroughs of New York, like you are, Ken, if I'm in Seattle, I'm probably going predominantly to, or maybe required to go exclusively to, doing most of this stuff virtual or all this stuff virtual, right? So again, if you get in that situation where you have to be virtual, that's fine, be virtual. But go way overboard to make sure that you're engaging your students, that you're making it interactive, that it's live, that there's daily lessons, that there's regular lessons, there's progress updates, all of that stuff, right? Now, the other side of it, and I want to circle all the way back, is this is now an opportunity since you're not going to be doing PE Teacher for the Day, school talks, you're not going to be spending the weekend for Mulan, any of that stuff. This is an opportunity for you to get caught up on progress updates, hand-holding, and renewal updates on every student that needs it. Start with that list of the people in the first year. The subset of that is those who are in the first year who are on your basic, your trial enrollment. And the other list is everyone who is renewed to black belt, but they're not in your highest level program. What I would love to see you do, if you don't have group classes, is have each and every one of them come in for a once a week private, preferably at the school, but you gotta evaluate where you're at, what your regulatory suggestions and requirements are, all of that stuff. And again, don't handshake, don't high five them, don't be in their face, 6 foot rule, all of that stuff. But if you can do it at the school, great, do it at the school. Let's schedule every one of them for a once a week progress update. Again, in many cases, the child is out of school and the parent is working remote, or the parent is waiting to see what the hell's going on if they're not able to go into their office. So if you can schedule that and get little 15-minute class, personal sit-down feedback, progress evaluation, and use this as a 2-month renewal blitz, right? So my first highest priority, and I was telling Master Smith yesterday, this really reminds me of why I liked grand openings so much. I was thinking through everything going on right now. I loved grand openings. The reason why I loved grand openings is I have a school that's been open 10 years. I got a ton of green belts and I got a ton of brown belts and I got black belts that are harassing me about things. And I've got to teach black belt classes and brown belt classes and, intermediate, advanced classes, all that stuff. But for a grand opening, what do I get to do? I get to put 100 new white belts in, and all I'm doing is first intro, second intros, enrollment conferences, and then basic class to renew them. That's all that's going on. To a great extent, it reminds me of that, where you can take your list of everyone who is not renewed and take your list of everybody who's renewable to a higher level, and you can really focus in on those people. Now, you could schedule them for, like Leo is doing, you could schedule them for a little private class by Zoom video and a little progress evaluation with mom and dad and the kid, or with the adult student or whoever it might be. You could do that remote if you wanted to. It's always more powerful in person. Again, nothing that we're discussing here is suggesting that you should go against what the mayor is implementing, that you should go against what the governor is implementing. We should all be good citizens and protect ourselves and protect our students from this thing spreading. You should have use the highest standards. What I am telling you is don't panic. Expect revenue to go up because there's that opportunity for it to go up, not down, and react accordingly to make a temporary transition. My daughter's in school there across the street from Jason's school. They're doing the next quarter virtually, and I'm still going to have to pay the tuition. She's still going to get the class credits. You know, they're debating whether they're opening or not opening the dorms, and some people are going to be on campus, but all the classes are going to be virtual. Well, okay, they're still accomplishing all the same things that they were accomplishing. They're not going to keep it virtual. They're going to go back to classroom instruction, presumably for the fall quarter. But this is the same thing. You're making a temporary transition, and you're maintaining that support, right? Now, some of you have had parents who are already freaking out on you. Oh my God, I need to pull my child. No, you don't need to pull your child. Your child needs to not be in a group environment with other kids who are potential carriers and are potentially sick. Here's what we're doing for classes here at the school to make sure everybody is safe. And here's what we're doing if you don't feel comfortable. Here's the daily lesson that we're going to put out every day at 9 a.m. So you can join us live since they're out of school, or you can watch the replay at any time during the day, and he or she can work out for 30 minutes every day at home. And here's what we're doing to project the small group classes done appropriately live. And if we don't have actual live group classes, here's what we're going to be doing to project what beginners should be working on. There's a couple pieces of curriculum per week we want to work on. Here's what we're going to do for intermediate students, for advanced students. And here's a time we want to schedule your personal class and progress evaluation each week to make sure that we stay on track. And everybody get the idea? So you're actually giving them more service than you would normally get when sometimes you have a madhouse of 150 people in the school and the windows are fogged and they can barely, they're tripping over shoes on the way in and trying to get in and out of the school, right? So you want to put all of those efforts in place. The other element is, of course, is there's a psychological commitment, and to some extent it's real, and other levels it's not, of people being freaked out because, well, today the stock market's up another 1,100 points, but they're freaked out because the stock market cratered, and they're freaked out because maybe husband or wife is a waiter, some other service industry person, their company has been shut down or one thing or another. Well, what we've got to recognize is this is probably a 2-month thing. So probably by April 15th, most of all the crisis stuff has passed. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. Maybe longer than that, maybe shorter. Right now, they're saying they really want everybody to be really serious about this for 2 weeks. My guess is, mid-May is when things start getting back to semi-normal, right? But what we want to do with our students is, you still set a goal to be a black belt. We're going to be training actually more because you have more time and you're not distracted with church activities and with going to the movies and with you're not having to be physically in school every day. In my son's case, he's normally in school from 7 a.m., which is stupid, till 2 p.m. Instead, they're doing 9 to 11 and 1 to 3 because their logic is 4 hours virtual is as good as a full day classroom. Well, that means he's sleeping a little later in the morning and he has more time during the day and he has more time in the evening because also the church activity that he goes to on Wednesday night isn't going to be happening. And also a couple of the other group activities that he goes to aren't going to be happening. So he actually has more time. So you've got to keep all this in context. Does that make sense? I promise everyone I'll sit down and write up a little letter for those people who say I need to quit because, and I'll put up a little letter. What I want no one to do is don't cancel any billing. Don't cancel ACHs. Don't cancel credit cards. Do take the same process you would use always and personal attention, focus. You're going to have people who are on the verge of dropping out already, who are going to use this as an excuse. You need more personal contact, not less personal contact. And if that's by video rather than face-to-face, that's fine. Is this making sense so far to people?
Pastor Oliver, and I would like to say that's something very consistent with what you've always been preaching about when we do a renewal, to be focused on their black belt goal, their goal of black belt second degree, and their goals that it's going the outcomes they're going to have from becoming a second degree black belt, how they're going to be in as an adult. And so if somebody says, well, I want to pull my kid out because of this thing, then to focus on those goals is critical. And to get them focused on, yeah, okay, yeah, for a few weeks, maybe a few months, this is going to be a thing, but you still want that, right? And their answer invariably should be yes, if that was the conversation we had. If the conversation we've had during that process was, well, you know, sign up for a longer time and you can get a black belt and whatever, and it was weak, then it's harder to have the conversation. But whether or not you did have that conversation earlier, that's the conversation to have, not you just can't quit because I told you so.
And using the universities as analogy is a good example, because they're doing the classes at home right now, but they'll go back in probably in September, back into regular class schedule. Everybody's still going to get their degree. They're all working towards a degree. They're still going to get credit for this semester, and it doesn't take them off of their goal, and that was to get a degree. And that's how we want our students to behave the same way.
Well, yeah, and what Master Smith said is exactly right. Why is that important? Because college is important because there's an outcome. And why is getting your second degree, third degree black belt important? Because it really has a serious outcome. We take this seriously. So the more you can get into that conversation, if something goes a little bit the wrong way, you know, that they just want to pull their kid out, I don't want to pay or whatever, the more you can go back to that conversation, well, you know, we're working on these kind of goals, the more it's going to be a better conversation with them. And it's going to be, it makes more sense, right? We're going to do this telework right now, but you really want to accomplish this goal for your kid. And by the way, they got nothing better to do right now because half of them are sitting home with nothing to do.
Yeah.
Master Oliver.
Go ahead, David.
If I know we're running out of time, but
yeah, you're okay.
Maybe think about if we're doing this Zoom and projecting a class anyhow, you know, how do we project it? You know, get the public to register for a free 5-week classes, and they register online or whatever for the classes.
I was thinking the same thing, David, when I was listening to Master Gracer. I was trying to figure, there sounded like a lot of opportunity, right? Parents are really appreciative of having an activity for their kids while they're at home when they have nothing else to do. Well, I'm sure those parents are talking to other parents, so maybe there's an opportunity to help some of the other moms and dads out inside of their homes by maybe they contact the school and, you know, get the code to sign up for a couple of free classes. Sounds like there might be opportunity there maybe to reach more people when they have nothing to do in their homes.
Right, exactly.
One of the ways I was thinking was actually doing like a little kind of quick class on a YouTube channel and kind of put it out to our, you know, our students and actually have them share that.
Yeah, I would rather get the lead though. You know, maybe they contact you somehow, give you their name, and you welcome them.
Yeah, you do both.
Master Oliver, you're muted.
Let me suggest this. We're going to work on Thursday on marketing during this and how to generate new students, how to work through it, right? If you're in a situation like in Harlem or in Seattle where you're actually, you know, by law, you've got the doors locked, then that's a different scenario than you can still group, you know, 10 in a group and you keep them separated and all that stuff, right? So in the case of you're doing 10 in a group and all that, you just have to clarify the communication with every contact. We're well aware of what's going on. We're complying with local, regional, and national recommendations. We're keeping social distancing with the kids. We're keeping them healthy. We're doing everything necessary. Here's the checklist. We're doing it in a small group but distanced format. And in fact, this lesson is going to be private or semi-private, right? So you just have to make sure that communication is there. I want to commend Paul Pendergast. Paul's on the line here as well, and a bunch of you, by the way. But Paul did a really good job with last, I forget when it was, but probably last week we talked about, he had a question. He says, well, we always clean the schools spotless and it's always, it's always disinfectant. And my response to that was, yeah, but usually they didn't think about it. Now it's first on their mind. So you've got to make it super visible. And this is the idea that came out of Seattle, by the way, of cleaning everything where it's visible to everybody, making sure that it's real, that they're real aware that you're doing it, and communicate that. Paul took that idea and did a great job of everybody cleaning during the class and taking a video of it and pushing it out and explaining what they were doing. So that was a great job on that one.
Yeah.
But here's what we're going to do this week. All of it focused on this short-term diversion. We're going to, on Wednesday, talk about investing, the market, interest rates, everything that impacts with that right now. And I'm going to invite back Peter Harnish. We're going to talk about how to grow your wealth right now and how not to be freaked out by the market. And by the way, one of the things I'll throw out is if you have a mortgage on your home or a mortgage on your building, it's a great time to refinance because interest rates are trending to zero. But we'll talk more about investing, setting money aside, keeping things in cash and keeping things in the market, and how you balance all that out tomorrow. Thursday, we're going to go to marketing in an era where live events are killed and in an era where parents are shy about group activities, and how to communicate that and how to accomplish that, including how to accomplish that in an era where your front doors are locked and you're not allowed to have them come in directly. So we'll talk about that. And I don't, Ken and Jason, are you actually in a point where restaurants can't do carry out, or can they be open for carry out? They just can't have group activity.
In New York, they can still do carry out.
Yep, same. They can do carry out, but not eating in. I drove out yesterday, and there was like a 3-block line for Wendy's. It's one of the few places you can go get food.
Yeah.
And if it was me and I was in that environment, I would massively expand my carry out. There's a lot of restaurants I was thinking around my area that I know do carry out, but they don't really market it. I'd be marketing the crap out of that. You could blow up, and you don't have to have as many employees during that time, although you might want to still pay them.
And you can do deliveries.
Are applying in Minnesota. We got an executive order yesterday. All restaurants, health clubs, including martial arts studios, closed down.
Well, yeah, but keep in mind, I said this at the beginning, Steve. Remember what closed down means. They are not closing restaurants for carry out. They're closing restaurants for dine-in service.
Correct.
Right? And in some areas, I have yet to hear of areas where they're closing down daycares. And the reason that
they haven't closed down the daycares. The one clause in there was that basically the way they worded it was basically that anyone in the public can't be in the facility is how they worded it. So doing one-on-one classes, the way it's written, doesn't appear able. There's a penalty, fine, dollar-wise, jail time. But it doesn't stop us from holding classes and doing the video live. We're doing the Zoom meetings, trying to get that going right now.
It also doesn't stop you from doing all this from the school, having the doors unlocked, fielding walk-ins, having people come in to meet you and do an enrollment. Doesn't stop you from having somebody, in all likelihood, coming in and doing an introductory class, which you could do hybrid. You could do some online and you could do some in person. I believe in probably almost all cases, all of those things would be fine. What they're trying to avoid is group congregations, and they're trying to avoid unhealthy interactions. And we should fully cooperate, by the way. The quicker this thing goes away, the better we all are, right? And it starts with, you don't have staff show up who are sick. Don't show up sick yourself. Don't interact with students when you're sick. The last thing I'll leave you with, because we're way over our schedule, get solid and effective communications out to all of your students by mail get solid communications out to your students by email and by text, and get hold of each and every one of them personally by phone. Okay? Don't rely on, I did a post on my Facebook group and everybody knows what's going on. Okay? The clearer you communicate with the same message, reassuring tones, where they can't not get the message, the better. So if you're going to do email, do it same communication 2 or 3 times a day for the week. If you're
So,
going to
Master
do,
Oliver, on that note, when we do reach out, so, you know, and if their spouse is a waitress and now they're, you know, impending loss of income, what would be a good language right now to say, you know, to respond to their worries about how are they going to make the next payment?
well, I will write up a letter, because Scott Sullivan had asked about, and Master Smith and I both beat up the letter that he posted. I'll write up a letter. What you end up doing, honestly, is you treat it like anyone else who's having a financial difficulty in the between, right? You never want to lose the student. You never want them to pull them out because of their concern, right? And, you know, we know at a city, at a state, and at a federal level, all the politicians are really actively worrying about and working on ways to offset this stuff, right? You know, the Treasury Secretary today said they're working actively with bipartisan support to just like mail everybody in that situation a check. You know, not a tax credit or not a payroll tax deduction or anything. And by the way, I mean, we're going to have to pay attention to some of their regulation may impact us with employees and so forth. We got to be aware of that as well. The main thing that keeps you from being impacted is you make this month and next month your best month gross wise of the year. And then everyone else is fine. I will say also with employees, if you have people who are like histrionic and they're not following your lead and they're pissed off because you're doing something that you shouldn't do, that's a good note for yourself that they're not on board and they're not a good part of the team. So you just make, you know, don't necessarily fire them immediately, but you got to make some notes, who's on my team, who isn't on my team. And folks will be a little emotional from time to time. That's okay. You've got to be a reassuring leader and calm them down and communicate effectively and make sure they recognize you're not going to do anything to help them get sick or to, you know, create illness with anyone else. But do note that you want to have all hands on board and you want them, you know, saluting, saying, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and marching on to the same drum. And those who cast aspersions at you on a personal basis because they don't agree with your approach, you don't need that. So tomorrow we're going to talk about movements you should make with money and movements you should make in dealing with the many opportunities. Thursday, we're going to be talking about marketing. My assignment for you every day is number 1, blank legal pad, brainstorm with yourself. What opportunities does this create that I can then utilize to build my business? That's the, you know, not what everything is going wrong, but what opportunities is this creating? Who can I communicate with? What can I help? How can I get good public relations? How can I get newspaper articles, TV articles? How can I be an expert on the radio? All of those things you should be brainstorming with yourself with a blank legal pad every day. What opportunities are there? With you and your staff today, those one-year students, everyone who's not yet renewed, and everybody who's renewed to black belt but not to your highest level, we're going to put 100% focus on progress updates every week, personal interactions every week, and making the next 2 months your best renewal time ever. And by the way, Olga, you did a couple of cash enrollments. Great. Any other enrollments you have that you want to do cash? That's great. You know, build up some extra cash reserves right now. I would much rather you do that and feel comfortable that you have abundance than be stressed out that 10 people didn't make their payment this month, right? There's going to be some that don't. The reason to always be targeting more upscale is white collar people are very unlikely, Amazon executives, for instance, are very unlikely to take any hit in their paycheck. You know, waiters and waitresses are very likely to take a hit, at least in the short term. So, you know, one reason to always be targeting upscale is the more you move into doctors and nurses and attorneys and middle management and upper management, then the more solid they are, the more stable they are anyway. Tomorrow, same time at noon, and then Thursday, same time at noon. In each case, all hands on deck. We're going to focus on building wealth tomorrow and maintaining, not taking a hit. And we're going to focus on marketing and the sales and enrollment process. And then next Tuesday, we're going to follow up on video and then expand on the renewal opportunities right now.
Same station?
Same station, all of them.
Yeah. And anybody who needs help with how to get your, you know, live streaming or video material, how to do that, post your questions on Facebook so we can all answer for it and even cover some on the meeting if we have to.
Absolutely.
And anybody
Absolutely.
to do the Zoom at home, we had just a little bit of a, we want to make sure that everybody has a clear space. A lot of people have coffee tables and they're in apartments or small areas. Make sure that a carpeted floor is going to be working better for them than a hard surface.
Yeah.
One of the fall and just make sure they're safe at home too.
Yeah, make sure they don't kick over the lamp or kick the
Make sure they stay 6 feet away from their siblings.
Yeah. Jason, are there two of you free in about 45 minutes?
I was actually leaving to go over. I've got to meet with somebody.
Okay, well, let's stay on here for a minute.
All right, sure.
I'm just have three things going on at once in the background here, but let's stay on here for a couple of minutes. Everybody else, I'll see you tomorrow. Same time.